I've missed you guys. Hi guys, welcome back to the Bat Cave. I'm your host, Lady Hellbat, and in case you haven't noticed, this is a whole new Bat Cave. If you've been following me on social media, you know that I've been going through a lot of change. 2017 has been pretty intense. Not only did I move, this isn't the old Bat Cave, this is an all-new Bat Cave. This might be where the Bat Cave is from now on, and it might not. But I also became editor of Rue Morgue magazine, and as soon as I moved in, I was getting started on the next issue, which is the May-June issue. My first issue as editor is going to be on shelves May 1st. So yeah, there's been a lot going on, but you didn't come here to listen to my excuses. You came here to hear me talk horror. And the biggest thing to happen in horror lately is the It remake trailer, which came out, and everybody's talking about it, everybody's buzzing about it, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal for a variety of reasons, one of which is just the nature of the remake. Remakes are something of a necessary evil within the film industry, and I think horror fans are especially tired of it, but at the same time, there are several reasons why this trailer shows promise, which is what I want to talk about. I've already talked about the It remake a little bit in my 500 subscriber video, which you can check out here. And in it, I said something to the effect of a remake could be okay for it because it has such a strong story and there's a lot of elements in it that could be updated meaningfully. Most notably the fact that in the original miniseries, you've got the story starts with the characters as kids in the late 1950s, and then it lies dormant for 30 years, and they come back to combat the evil in the 80s as adults. Now, the remake is supposedly updating this premise by setting them as kids in the 1980s and as adults in present day. And there's a couple of reasons why that's cool. First of all, as I mentioned, the monster lies dormant for 30 years. So if you think about when the movie came out relative to now, it's 30 years later. So it really is an update of the story within its natural storyline cycle. Furthermore, I think bullying is just as relevant now as it was way back in the 50s, in the 80s. There was totally different concerns, but all of them are still totally relevant. And frankly, I find the story strong enough that it could be updated in just about any context and still be really meaningful. Between the fact that the original movie ended on something of a whimper and the update looks like it's actually going to be updating the material meaningfully, there's a lot of promise in this premise. So with that said, let's talk about the trailer. So if you haven't seen the remake trailer, somehow I will post it in the episode description below, but basically at the start it follows Georgie Dembro, who is Stuttering Bill's little brother, and we see him chasing his sweet paper boat down the street in his adorable little yellow slicker, and he's having a great time until he encounters Pennywise in the sewer. And this is a scene that's taken straight out of the miniseries. Not the opening scene, but like one of the first things to happen. Then we see snippets of how the town of Derry is handling all of these mysterious murders. We learn that there's a curfew in place. We learn that they're posting missing person signs for the people who have disappeared, and everybody's really scared and understandably concerned. And after that, after the stage is kind of set, we see the Losers Club discussing with one another how they're seeing things that are impossible and terrifying and menacing. And then we're treated to a bunch of snippets from the film of the scenes to follow. Now, the snippets of the film mostly have to do with scenes that were in the book that weren't in the original TV miniseries, and I really don't think that's an accident. I think that the marketing team behind the film, they know what they're up against. They know that horror fans have remake fatigue and that we are sick to death of having things recycled and resold to us under different branding. Like, they know. So if you're doing something like It, they want to promise us that they're presenting something that we haven't seen before, but that they really want. And to that effect, we've got a great shot of the house on Neibolt Street. We've got a great implication that the werewolf scene is going to be there. We get the sense that we're going to see Mike Hanlon's backstory with the giant bird. I have no fucking idea how they're going to shoot that shit, but I cannot wait. I was also really excited to see mention of the character Patrick Hochstetter, who wasn't in the miniseries at all, but he had a really interesting storyline in the book. He was friends with Henry Bowers, who is the bully who plagues the kids, and he's kind of a sociopath. So on the one hand, you're excited to see him get his comeuppance, but on the other hand, his death is some grisly shit. So those are the scenes that really have me excited for the film that I got in the trailer, but I think it's important to remember that this thing has been in production since 2009, when Cary Fukunaga was attached to the project. And if you recognize the name, it's because he was the director and executive producer of the first season of True Detective, which was really interesting. It was really oddball. It was very strange for primetime TV. It broke a lot of rules and has been very well received critically, and it won an Emmy. So obviously Fukunaga knows what it is he's doing. So when he was attached to this project, I knew that he was going to take things into a really dark place. And this story has a lot of scope for things to get dark. There's shit going on with these kids that gets really dark, so I was excited. And then when in 2015 he dropped out of the project, he stated that there were creative differences between him and New Line Cinema, who wanted to make sure that they got their money back and make sure that they satisfied their audiences. And to me, that's kind of a really red flag, that Fukunaga really wanted to do something interesting and creative, and New Line wasn't really down with the chances he wanted to take. So that's something to keep in mind. The fact of the matter is, I love this story so much that if it kept exactly to the script, I would be happy. If it were a play-by-play remake of the original with a couple of updates, I would be happy. I'd be interested to see what Fukunaga would have done, but overall, I'm really gonna see it either way because I love this shit. Now, filmmaker Andrea Muschietti was brought on board in 2013, and his resume is considerably shorter. He made the short film Mama, which was developed into a feature film. It got the attention from Guillermo del Toro and was pretty well received critically, so there's still potential there. It's an amazing book, and Muschietti could very well do a great job. We're just gonna have to wait and see. So one last thing I'd like to say about the trailer is with regard to a YouTube video that I saw in the past week that took the trailer with the footage of Georgie running along the streets with his boat and the scene in the original miniseries. And this video put them side by side. I'll put it in the show notes down below, but the videos put them side by side, and it was kind of a compare and contrast thing. And I really get the sense that the intention of the video was to be like, look, it's a ripoff. Like, they're doing this scene exactly the way they did it. However, in the original miniseries, you've got Georgie running along in his yellow slicker, having a great time, and he comes across a roadblock and he very carefully goes underneath it. Whereas in the remake trailer, we see Georgie running along and he runs right into that roadblock sign. He gets clotheslined, it throws him back on his ass, and he's rubbing his head like, ooh. And the first time I saw it, I remember thinking to myself, oh, fuck, that's a pretty lowbrow slapstick gag for it to pull. And I sure do hope that the rest of the film doesn't have that kind of slapstick humor. Like, I hope they don't try to jerk cheap laughs out of us, because that's not what it is about to me at all. However, the more I thought of it, the more I realized that I actually think that that was a very clever and strategic ploy from the film's marketing team, in that you know this story, you know that you're going to see a little boy running down the street with his paper boat, and we are going to follow very closely to the source material being the miniseries and the book. However, we're going to throw some curveballs at you, so don't get too comfortable. Overall, it's a remake of a story I love, so I feel like it's natural to be excited and a little bit nervous, and like it's an important story in horror literature. It was a really big deal, and if you need evidence of my love for it, this is a book that I got it secondhand in the first place, and for the longest time it still had the sticker that said it was 50 cents. I got it at a garage sale, and right now it is held together with tape and a whole lot of love. I went to read a couple of chapters. One reason you know that a book is fantastic is if you just pick it up and open the pages anywhere and you can read and enjoy what it is you're reading. But this book is held together with tape and a whole lot of love, and I feel like, yeah, there it is. It was 50 cents. Anyway, if you haven't read it, now's probably the time, but give yourself some time because it's a sizable volume, and the movie's coming out this fall, and we're all going to check it out, and I'll have a lot more to say then. Until then, thank you so much for joining me back at the Batcave. It means a lot to me that you guys were really patient. You knew that I was really busy, but you sent me a lot of support and a lot of love, and I'm happy to be back. So if you enjoyed this video, please do remember to like it, subscribe to the channel, and share it. Spread the word that the Batcave is back. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.